What do you guys think happens when we die? Picture a wave in the ocean. You can see it, measure it. Its height. The way the sunlight refracts, and then it crashes on the shore and then it's gone. But the water is still there. The wave was just a different way for the water to be for a little while. That's one conception of death for a Buddhist. The wave returns to the ocean, where it came from, and where it's supposed to be. Chidi Anaganye. The good place. You and I are all as much continuous with the physical universe as a wave is continuous with the ocean. Alan Watts. Hopefully the ketamine rush. Sprinkle in some DMT and sounds fun. I was dead for millions of years before I was born and it never inconvenienced me a bit. Mark Twain. You stop fearing death. That's for sure. Death does not concern us. Because as long as we exist, death is not here. And when it does come, we no longer exist. Philosophically, it may be true. But all that quote did for me was awaken some existential anxiety. When my grandfather's health had declined to the point it was clear he would not recover, he was offered counseling to help him prepare for the end. Not a particularly religious man, but raised Christian. He chose to have a few sessions with a priest to talk about life, the end of it, and possibly an afterlife. The priest asked him, "You're going to die soon. How does that make you feel?" To which my grandpa answered, "I don't know. I've never done it before. I wish that when my time comes I'll feel the same acceptance and will be as down to earth as that man. My example and my hero. We don't know and all we can do is wait and see. I am okay with that." His response made me smirk. When my Phil was diagnosed as terminal, he started counseling. I could totally see him saying something like that in response to the question. I hope I'll say something like that when my time comes. But knowing myself, I'll probably have panic attack after panic attack. Not all of us are as graceful, lol. I'm hoping to meet up with my dog and cross the Rainbow Bridge with him. But I'm afraid nothingness awaits. My cat'll be waitin' for me and she'll prob just bite me. Human. I haven't eaten in so long. Chomp. I like to think of it like a deep sleep but with no dreams. When you are asleep but are not dreaming, you are completely unaware of yourself, where you are, or even that you exist. I think death is probably the same. I have the same theory but can't decide if this sounds scary to me, sounds peaceful, or that I'm utterly neutral on the subject. Neutrality sounds like the most appropriate response, as nothingness isn't inherently good or bad. My opinion changes regularly. So maybe it's somehow a mixture of all three. To expand on what you said, I think what comes after is like what came before. For all I know, my memories can go as far before reaching pure darkness, with nothing beyond. If the afterlife is like the before life in lack of better terms, then it will be a state of non-existence, where it doesn't matter much what you were, currently are, and what you could possibly be once more. Death is just another path, one that we all must take. The gray rain curtain of this world rolls back and all turns to silver glass, and then you see it. White shores and beyond. A far green mountain under a swift sunrise. J. R. R. Tolkien. That doesn't sound so bad. No. No, it doesn't. Sorts by controversial. How do comments get determined to be controversial? Seriously, I have always wanted to know. High amount of upvotes and downvotes. I will tell you when I discover it. You're the forehead to rule them all, Lamau. If we're lucky, someone deletes our browser history. Blast my cache. Probably like sleep, except you don't dream or wake back up. Sleep is practice for death. Sleep. Those little slices of death, how I loathe them. Edgar Allan Poe. I legitimately have no clue at all and don't want to waste time guessing. What I hope happens is I can somehow interact still with all the people I've loved in my life. I know that's really optimistic. But if I could decide what happens, I'd love for that to be true. The only thing that I'm pretty sure of is that a human body and mind are limited in perceptive capacity. I think whatever does happen, it's not going to be what I expect. Undefined. That's a pretty good answer. The student loan people go after our families. Do they really? If they co-signed. My mom died with student loans and they tried to come after us, but we told them to feep off. By come after us they called a few times. Edit, since my comment was unclear. If someone co-signed, it gets passed to that person. My mom did not have a cosigner. She took out student loans and died. The student loan people tried to collect on her family even though we had nothing to do with her loans. So they couldn't do speep because they are not my loans and I didn't co-sign. Don't you know where you were before you were born? You're going back to that stuff. I can't even remember where I was a year ago. Probably trying to buy toilet paper like the rest of us. Undefined. So I've had several near-death experiences of various kinds: 2 traumatic head injuries, beeping and extended loss of consciousness. 1 very close call with strep as a young kid resulting in life-threatening fever, and these definitely inform my view. My experience is that when the body is struggling to hold on to life and basically rerouting all resources to regenerative mechanisms, consciousness kind of dials back in scope. Pretty similarly to certain types of drug trips I've experienced, especially ketamine. When there's any awareness at all within a near-death state, it's not like normal waking consciousness. It's much more rudimentary. You may be aware of colors, sounds, tactile contact, etc. But you tend to lack any conceptual framework for the sensations. You just register a sense, and that's that. The parts of your mind that are normally sorting, categorizing, and putting all that data input together to form consciousness aren't really needed for the task at hand, so they kind of just get out of the way. The nature of experience shifts in the direction of what I can only categorize as more dreamlike. Time seems to become distorted, like in a dream. You might experience what feels like an hour in just a few minutes. There is less of a cohesive, grounded sense of personality. We normally can rely on our ego mechanisms to sort and process incoming information, when this is more or less stripped away. Awareness is more like a stream of jumbled phenomena. It's easy to lose any sense of self in the mess of unsorted experiential information. My extrapolation from these experiences is that as one gets closer and closer to death, the final shutdown of the brain, the conscious experience may very well continue distorting and dilating indefinitely. At that final point in spacetime between dying and final, ultimate shutdown, the nature of our consciousness would be absolutely nothing like the consciousness we've been familiar with over the course of life. I think it's reasonable to presume that all the various conceptions of afterlife cooked up by the world's religions could be interpretations of the literal experience of the moment of dying. The dying person might experience the very moment of their dying for centuries. We do this kind of thing in dreams, experiencing years in the course of just 6 to 8 hours, and that's just routine unconsciousness. When you're down to just that one last flicker of firing neurons before it all goes black, who's to say what our perception of the scope of time would feel like? This is a very interesting perspective. Thank you. Well, if the good place taught me anything, it's that there's a lot of penis flattening in the afterlife for those that are ass peeps. All I know is, I don't want to have my ghost penis flattened over and over for eternity. I don't want butthole spiders. Sure, the first time you give someone butthole spiders they're terrified, but then they get used to it, and worse, the spiders get bored. The ones who love us will miss us. Keanu Reeves. Here it is. That's easily the best reply to that question I've ever seen. Exact same thing as before we were born. This thought puts me into an existential crisis. But so does the thought that my consciousness will continue on into eternity. Even if I were to exist in some kind of paradise, the thought of existing forever is daunting. Your memories, your feelings, and your personality are all part of your brain chemistry and thus tied to your physical body. If there is something left after, would you recognize it as you? Leave a like and a comment if you liked the video. Check out more Reddit-related video. I am posting them daily. Subscribe to see more Reddit content.